Hi, welcome to a series of videos that covers acquiring and bringing Digimap data into AutoCAD. Here's an example of a recent project. It's a village hall north of Dundee, and this is exhibiting the majority of the data types that we'll be looking at. So we've got contours here on a 5 kilometre square, so these are ordnance grid squares, and then near the center here I've got 4 kilometre squares of information for topography, and we've also got these bronze coloured and these orange buildings, these orange shapes. These are from the building height attribute set of data, and we've also got 4 aerial photographs. These are kilometre squares as well, and these can be used to generate a texture in a 3D model. The contours have been simplified so that they didn't generate too many vertices, and then using 3D Studio Max, kind of using the terrain command, creating a surface on those contours. So if I shade this, you'll get a better idea of what's going on. It's a bit confusing when you look at it like this. Okay, so we can see the green texture, and you see the yellow contours there, and the orange buildings, which are set roughly at the right level in above sea level. The heights of these blocks only goes to the eaves level. It doesn't go to the highest point of their roofs, so you do have to model roofs there on. I modelled the electricity pylon route myself, just by eye measurements from photographs. If I zoom in a bit closer, if I just call up a view, okay, so I've zoomed right in, and I've also incorporated some LiDAR information here as well, which is useful for getting more accurate roof heights closer to the proposed site. Okay, so that's this view is showing the existing building. We take all this into 3D Studio to apply general colors and materials, and then from there it's exported as FBX into a piece of software called Twinmotion. So this is roughly the same view looking down on the building, and you can see the photographs here used as a texture. If I move around this is in 3D. You can see the shape of the land gets higher as you leave Dundee. We come up as if we're heading to Forfar. Okay, and then closer in, buildings have been modelled. Got a wind turbine. You can see the line of the cables. These are quite important features in this area. Not much else going on. And then we get right close up, and we've got the building itself, and a low detail on the existing buildings nearby, and it fades off to weaker detail further away. But just an example of how this data can be used very effectively in the process of generating designs or visualizations. I'm going to close Twinmotion now. It creates a lot of fan noise on the computer, so I'm having to shout over the top of the fans. So let's close Twinmotion, and things will quieten down quite a bit. Okay, now back in AutoCAD, I'm just going to show you the example that we're going to create. So this is 2 kilometre squares of St Andrews. It's got the most kind of historic part of the town, and I'm purposely using kilometre squares so that we get a better correspondence of, say, the historic imagery and the aerial photography. So those are switched off at the moment. I'm just going to turn those on one at a time. So I'll switch the aerial photo on. Okay, this is a very good match to the current ordnance survey. You can see there's it corresponds very, very well. Historic is never so good because the historic even the surveys were done 200 years ago, so they're never going to be as accurate as the stuff we have available now. So you can see here when we zoom in, we're quite a bit off in all sorts of locations. It's very difficult to try and make that match. It's nigh on impossible, really, because you pull one side and another area gets worse, etc. Okay, but it's really useful to see what's happened on a location previously, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, etc. You can stack up the historic information within the same drawing, and it gives you a really good resource, everything in the same place. You can see here the contour information is there as well, but that's been trimmed because there's no need to hold on to 5 kilometers of contours if you don't need it. So that's the example I'm going to go through. I do have the 3D building shapes on there as well. If we were going to take this into a 3D model, and again the 3D buildings, they come in a 5 kilometer data set, and they've been trimmed down as well, which you'll see as we go through the video. Okay, so that's kind of introduction, and the first stage is to get yourself registered with Digimap. Now I can't demonstrate that fully because I'm already registered, but let's go to the site, and this is the URL, digimap.edina.ac.uk. so it's a service run by Edinburgh University on behalf of the Ordnance Survey and other organisations. It basically provides a very efficient method of locating information and downloading it, and aimed basically at educational establishments and research establishments. Okay, but we're going to use information from Ordnance Survey, Historic and Aerial. Okay, but if you do want other information, you would kind of sign up for those in the same way. So I'm just going to go to Ordnance Survey, and then there's not much further I'll be able to go. Okay, so I would say I want to use some OS Digimap information. Okay, you would need to, first time user, you would need to search for University of Dundee or wherever you are. Okay, continue. Okay, and because I'm already registered, it's taken me straight in. Okay, you would be presented with a registration page. There will be an email verification that you have to do. Okay, and then there's an acceptance of the terms that you have to fill in. And when you fill that in, you will be saying that you accept the terms, that you will respect the rules of the website, that you don't download unnecessarily, and that you will always place the copyright citation on the work as well. So basically this needs to be, everywhere we use any of this information, it needs the citation added as well. Okay, and the reasons that you're using the information is for academic coursework or research. Okay, now, so I'm sorry I can't kind of demonstrate that fully, but it's fairly methodical. You probably registered for umpteen different types of websites. You will no doubt manage to get in. So once you can see this map, that means you're in properly, everything's working correctly. Okay, now there's two main methods of using the software, using the website, and one is to kind of generate a printout, and that's called the ROAM service, ROAM. Okay, it isn't kind of spoken about now. It doesn't really kind of come up here as an option to use ROAM. Previously it would be an option of use ROAM or use data download data. Okay, but the ROAM covers most of the top area, but we're more interested in the download data, so that's where we're going to go first. Okay, and when you do that, the map in the background goes grey because it's expecting us to choose positions and areas on the map. Okay, so let's zoom in right in as close as we can go initially. So we're going to go to St Andrews and go in closer and closer, and the closer you go, the base map changes. So we're still on what's called a raster map. So these are fine for kind of large distances. When we get in closer, we start to see the buildings. Okay, we've kind of got suburbs and the likes, and then we get closer still, we're seeing individual buildings, and then it's going to shift to a vector imagery in the background, and that's what you can see here. Seeing much more information. Okay, getting closer still, and that's as far as we can get into. We're at a level called view building. Okay, so say I wanted to redesign this particular block of buildings. Okay, I want the vector information for this, the master map information. So what I might use is a rectangle to identify that area. Okay, so it's a single click, move, single click. Okay, and when we request that data, that's all we'll get of the master map. We won't get any of the stuff around it. It will just be cut to that particular area. Okay, if you selected your rectangle incorrectly, you just click again. So the second rectangle is going to cancel out the first one. Okay, if you wanted a different shape, you want to minimize your selection, then we can use the polygon tool, and we might say actually we just want this shape. So to finalize that shape, it needs a double click. Okay, so that's the two main selection methods. Okay, that's fine if you just want master map information. Okay, because it will trim that easily. Now if you're wanting other types of information, and we're not paying for this, so we can be a bit more kind of I wouldn't say greedy, but we can be generous to ourselves, let's say. So what I would advise you use is using the Ordnance Survey tile names. So for this, we'd zoom out a bit further. So let's get further away if it will let me. There we go. Whoops, gone a bit too far there. Slow down. Things have gone a bit jumpy here. I'm going to switch that off. Okay. Right. So I can see two grids here. I'm at the local level, neighborhood, still see the two grids. Okay, but I don't know what those grid names are, so that's where this comes in handy, and we can switch on the 1 kilometer grid, and these are the reference numbers that I need to work with. Okay, so let's just slide that to the side so I can still see the number. So I'm going to go for that grid and that grid. Okay, I'm just moving it out of the way because when you click on this button, it drops this chooser right on top of the number that you're trying to remember. Okay, so we want NO 5016. Right, and then go. Okay, and just make sure it is the tile that you're interested in. So for that tile, I want to now choose products. Website here has been a bit clunky. I want the topography for that site. I want the building heights, and I'm also going to take the land and height data, the OS terrain 5 contours. That's as good as you get, really. Okay, and then you add those to the basket. Now we're trying to take these into AutoCAD, so the DWG format is what we need, and luckily all three of these come in that format. Topography has two themes, shaded or unshaded. So I'm going to go for unshaded. Okay, now we're not finished because we can go for the other square as well. So we add more data. Okay, so we want this tile as well. So use tile name NO5116, go. Okay, and that's the square we want. For this, we only need the master map topography, because the 5 kilometer square takes in both of these. The 5 kilometer square for the building heights, and the contours take in both of those squares. I'm not sure if we can see that on here, but that's just seeing if I can make out where the 5 kilometer square would be. So it should, it's a bit difficult. It comes up to there, so that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's this square. So that's the 5 kilometer square. So there's 2 of those in each 10 kilometer square. So if I put the 5 kilometer square on, you can see it there. We're right inside that. So we don't need the to reorder the building heights or the contours. So you need to kind of be a wee bit aware of this, kind of use these reference grids. They're very handy. So we now can have a look at the basket, and we haven't added that to the basket, sorry. We add that to the basket, and again change the format and the theme, and then we need to keep an eye on our email. So we request the download. You can give it a name, you don't have to. I'll just call this SA, short for St Andrews. You'll see it appear in the zip file name. So we request the download, okay, and then if I keep an eye on my email, we should see something arrive here. There we go. So that first one is an acknowledgement of your order. So telling us what we ordered, so that's a kind of useful check. Okay, and then within a minute or so we should see a second email arrive. I'll just pause the video while we're waiting for, oh, didn't need to pause it, it's just arrived. So that's the second email, and that has the button for downloading your data. So what this does, it launches a second Digimap window because it doesn't want to disturb what you've done already. So it launches a second window from which you can download your data, and we want to save that. Okay, now that's gone to my downloads folder. There we go. And from here we will extract that data. Okay, extract. Now there's quite a lot of stuff in here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is create another folder that's empty, and I'm going to take stuff from one to the other so we can leave behind the stuff we don't need. So let's create a new folder and call it St Andrews. I prefer capitals, it's a bit easier to see my failing eyesight. Okay, now it's very important that we do put citations on our work. Okay, so I'm going to take that across first, the citations. Okay, and let's have a look at those citations. We can tidy things up a wee bit. Okay, so we don't need the 2 top paragraphs. We can remove those. Okay, the 2 master map citations there are exactly the same apart from the time on them, so we don't need both of those. Okay, there's a timestamp on there that we don't need. Okay, and you could be a bit more brutal with those. There's a bit more there you could possibly take away, but wherever we use this information, we should be adding these notes as long as they're legible. It's got to be readable. Okay. Right, I'm going to close that. Save. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to lop off the end of the file because it doesn't need the word orders and that automatically generated 7-digit number. We don't need that. So that's important. We'll keep that. When we download some more information, the historic and the aerial, we will need to add those citations into this as well. Okay, let's have a look at what we've got here now. Building heights. Inside the NO folder, here's the file. I'm just going to add the word heights at the end there, so I know what that one is. And I'm just going to drag that across. Okay, go back to the topographic maps. Hard to tell which one's the east and the west, so I'm just going to rename this one to Topo A. So get rid of these codes. So this is Topo A, and then obviously we'll rename the second one to Topo B. Yeah, you might have a lot of these. Okay. If you're needing a bigger area, then you could select a 5 kilometer square instead of building it up like we're going to do. But you've got to be. Oh, I didn't add the B on there. Topo B. Okay, and then we've got the terrain. So it's the contours in the NO folder. No need to change the name on that one. We can just keep that one as it is. Okay, so everything that's left is rubbish. Okay, so the zip file we don't need to keep. We've taken what we need out of it, and we've taken what we need from this folder, and this is where we're building up our information and where we'll save the drawing. Excuse me. So I'm just going to keep those available for later. I don't need to keep this window open, but I will keep this for a while because we'll come back to this to get the historic stuff in a wee while. Okay, I think that's a useful place to pause, and we'll go on to the next video in the series. Okay, see you in a minute.